all coming out onto that street.
Right. I can share with you, if I can speak now. You're all familiar with Mike Walker, who did the senior housing, and he was at one point units per acre to be a viable number to be able to make some money on a project like that. Is that close, Steve?
Yeah, and some of you may remember, Mike and I came and made a presentation on that site with, it was two alternatives, or one alternative of two buildings, similar to, and what Stu said, I mean, this, physically, Greenwich Avenue is an interesting and different sort of area than most of the villages because of the topography. Inside the central business district, you really don't have any of that, except maybe West Main Street. But, the topography naturally allows these buildings to be, and his thoughts were, and I think that, the whole streetscape thing is a whole other conversation we can get into. But it's to put the buildings, up front, similar to like Lawyers Row, create a street corridor, and then take advantage of the topography going down to where you have a garage or a parking similar to Carroll Park, right up the street, so you don't have all the surface parking. And the numbers were 15 units per acre because the ability, the site costs to develop, that type of site are very expensive. But I would add also that, we have an opportunity that I haven't heard in any of this conversation, and that is what I call the unicorn of housing, and that is workforce housing. We all talk about it, but nobody ever sees it. One of the things is that if you're entitled to, let's just say for the number is 15 units per acre, well, if you want to take advantage of that provision of the code, then you have to provide us, the village, something in return, and that could be affordable housing, say 10% incentive, which other communities are doing. So that's one thing that if you look at...
Is that within the same piece of property?
In the same building.
Could be on the
In the same buildings. In other words, if you're entitled to get, say you're doing the math, and you 10 units, you have to give 10% of that as affordable, so you'd be 11 units, you'd be affordable.
If I'm not wrong, a certain number of Section 8.
No, it doesn't have to be Section 8. It's all set, basically you set it at anywhere from 80 to 100% of what the median income is for the community. And ours is, like $70,000, we're like $70,000 or $70,000. So, anywhere from 80% of that to 120%. So it's far from it's obtainable.
It doesn't,
it's not Section 8.
And it doesn't have to be subsidized in any particular manner, or anyway. If as Steve says, if a property owner or developer comes in and he wants to increase his density, we just have to work out a formula, but you want it to be viable for the property owner, and you want to create something that the village would want. And the idea, for instance, of getting even more population closer to the village center is a worthy goal.
So if I could rephrase a mixing of what I just learned here and what I was thinking, if it's not a senior housing project, and you're talking about it being, let's say, 6 units per acre, then you could say you would permit 10 units per acre, just to throw in a number, as long as a certain number were for the, what's it called?
Workforce housing.
Workforce?
I'd just like to,
Maybe
you don't
have to go.
I like to. I think I'll call it obtainable. That sounds good.
I'd just like to finish what I started about the 15 units per acre. Well, that deal went by the wayside because of the economy, and one of the other things that Mike didn't like at the time, because of the economy, is there's really no commercial projects or people that want to bring a business into the community, and part of the zone as it exists now is you can have some residential there, but you have to have business on the first floor. And he said, I'm not going to attract any business here. So that was another downer.
I think that point, and then I think you or others made that point, and that was one of the reasons why we suggested that the current zoning, and particularly in the current economy, may not be attracting investors, and so maybe we should add another dimension and add multiple dwellings as a particular use. And even a mixed income maybe makes it even more attractive. I don't know what you're feeling.
Just to speak to that again, I mean, actually, we represented two developers who were looking at Joe's parcel. And the first one, we actually went to the zoning board of appeals and got a variance for a 4th level.
I remember that.
So, because, and even with that additional unit count or additional space, they couldn't make it work because of the commercial first floor.
But I think that's why we're addressing it.
Because they didn't feel they could get a tenant, or they couldn't get enough square foot?
They couldn't get a tenant.
Oh, so,
Just for a point of clarity, we're all on the same page. I heard Mal speak before, and I'm in agreement, but I want to make sure we're not doing anything that's going to be restrictive on what's currently on the books, and we're not going to be any more restrictive. And that's what it seems like is what it's written. But just because I know there's a lot of apprehension out there in the business community based on conversations we've had over a year ago, is the board in agreement that we're not going to be any more restrictive? I don't think we should be. It doesn't seem like Mal does, but are we all, just so we can...
I think in agreeing to, I think...
No, that's my point. I want to make sure that, moving forward, it's either the way it is here or even less restrictive. Because a while back, we had talked about going the other direction. I want to make sure that's off the table.
Because we're doing it from High Street, I think the creation of the CS1 is what brings us together.
No, I know, I understand. So we're all on the same page, though, that we do not want to be any more restrictive than we currently are. Is that correct? I believe so.
I believe so, too.
Okay.
I think so, too,
I think that's important
there's a lot
information to get out there.
you know.
Right. Well, I think that, people want to hear that because it's scary to be a property owner to hear that talk, even if it looks like we moved past that. But I just want it to be clear that we're past that point. So that's...
I think that's what we're entertaining all of these issues
Okay.
because we believe that.
Okay, just wanted to hear from everyone else.
Just to get back to the concept of affordable workforce housing, I believe the town of Goshen, when they first redid their master plan, I don't know if they've changed it since then, had that in their
They
master
had,
plan.
the 2004 code had it as an incentive.
Okay, so it was an incentive, but I believe Warwick, the town of Goshen, and then Warwick has that.
Now, they've adopted now that we have to.
Provide it.
We just have to provide it.
Yeah, okay.
In the town.
But to clarify, for example, if you have 4 acres, it doesn't have to be you may have multiple buildings on 4 acres, so it doesn't have to be in the same building.
No,
I think there was a little confusion about that. But it really is the trend now to include just workforce, affordable, whatever you want to call it, housing in code.
but it does need to be in the same parcel.
Yeah,
Yeah.
in the same parcel.
Same parcel, but not necessarily if you had a front building
Right.
and you had 2 buildings.
But-
It would
but-
not necessarily have to be in the...
In the design concept, it would blend in though. It would
Right.
No, absolutely.
That'd be fine.
Yeah.
No, I'm with you.
I would have to hear more, but I wouldn't have a problem with allowing first floor housing because we have them there now.
We gotta put them all on stilts because of the floodplain.
Right, well, that's another topic.
Sure, that's a whole nother day.
If you remove that from the equation,
Yeah.
a commercial use on the bottom floor is going to be just as wet if the flood comes down as it is.
It's affecting everything.
Right.
Quick check with your anomaly, but that's gonna be a problem for them too.
But I'd
Steve
have to
makes a
learn more,
good
but I wouldn't be opposed to that personally.
Makes a good point about the cost of developing the site in either side of the road. Part of the smaller on the west side. But they still have slopes and it's hard to get them, you don't, I mean, you have to think about whether you want to permit an intensity of development too that might encourage modifying those slopes on the west side of the street. So I don't know. I mean, that's, because if you're going to, there's small and smaller parcels. You could make a minimum lot size and people would have to assemble parcels and would get a usable parcel out of it. And Marcia, you asked earlier about like minimum parcel size, and you're asking, I started to look at it, but it's probably going to have to be something that is bigger than a 10,000 square foot lot. I mean, that was not the I don't think that was our intent to
No,
recommend
and
that.
certainly that's not my intent either, so we have to demarc what
Yeah,
is going to fit
Yeah.
category.
so not every
But
lot
those-
would qualify, that's the
No,
point.
they won't, but the parcels in general we're talking
Yeah.
about would qualify.
Similar to your tax zone, that you have now, I mean, that has a minimum lot size.
Right.
That's exactly what it is, but, you know, so you're not gonna have a quarter acre lot and apply for
No.
That's exactly right,
designated.
because that would be construction.
And that is not uncommon, again, to have this